So in a recent video, you saw I had my little Savage 93R17, 17 HMR out at the range. Yeah, I wasn't going for any accuracy testing, but it hadn't been out before. Okay, so we're magazine's empty. It's a little 5 rounder. Check the chamber. Okay, we're clear. I wanted to do some upgrades on this. So here on the table, you see my wife bought me this last weekend. It's a BSA Sweet 17, 3 to 9 by 40. It's adjustable objective rifle scope. These Sweet 17s, they're adjustable for your distance. It will change the turrets. You can see these graduated here. I got it set on the lowest setting. It's 100 yards, and it's just slightly high, which is about right because if I take it out to 100 yards, it'll be right on. And then you can dial your turrets for whatever distance you're shooting. I related the story of me shooting a coyote at 125 yards and was easy. Just dialed that up to 125 where it's on the dot here, and pow, I mean, it was dead on. Of course, my friend that had the rifle at the time, not this rifle, but one identical to it, he had it sighted in at 100 yards. He said it's dead on and everything. This is only a 2 to 7 by 32 millimeter scope, so it's a little hard sometimes to find the eye box. And I just felt like a 3 to 9 by 40 millimeter would be the better deal. So I'm going to be taking the scope and the mounts off. The Sweet 17 comes with its own rings and everything, but since it's a 40 millimeter, the rings are going to be slightly taller than the ones that are on here currently. I don't think that I could use the same rings. I probably have interference here at the barrel. I may be okay. I'm gonna just loosen these up, set the scope in there, and see how it works. But anyway, so you've all seen how to mount scopes and everything. But one of the things that I mentioned in my video is this had not been um, thoroughly cleaned. And to thoroughly clean one, you're always going to get little pieces of dirt and dust and stuff underneath between the barrel and the stock. So I'm going to remove the action from the stock and clean all the way underneath there and everything. Um, the newer rifles, they're not really traditionally blued, with the deep bluing and everything. It's more of a nitrided type finish, even though this got a little bit of a shine on it. Um, I'm still going to clean underneath there just to make sure there's no rust or any dirt or anything under there. And I'll just feel a lot better about it. This hasn't even been out of the safe in probably 3 years until just recently. And I don't know. This really is one of my favorite rifles to shoot. It's just just a sweetheart. One thing I'm going to look at is the trigger. This doesn't have a horrible trigger. I got my Wheeler gauge out here. Um, it's coming in just between 4 and 4.5 pounds, but I want to see if I can get this down to like 2 pounds or something. Let's see. Right there, 4 pounds, 4 ounces. It's not a horrible trigger. It breaks clean. We'll do this again. It's got a really clean break to it, but if you want to do some real precise shooting, then you want to have it down a little bit lower. And that's something I'm going to do in this coming year. Is I'm going to take a lot of my rifles, most of my center fire rifles. I'm going to see what I can do about improving the trigger on those, including my AR. That's like I said, that's all coming up. This was 4.25 pounds. So, I mean, it's not horrible. 4 pounds, 4 ounces. It's not horrible, but if I can bring it down even to 3 pounds, that'll be great. I've never worked on the trigger, so that's something I'll do off camera. I'll see what happens. So, the bolt just comes out. You just got to pull the trigger and the bolt comes right out. It's still got a little bit of oil on it. And I always like to keep a a film of oil on these, and you'll see there's no rust or anything. Still got a lot of machining marks in here, but that's not going to interfere with anything. You know, your tracks here, your guides, that's where you're going to get most of it. And it's not dirty, even though I shot a bunch in that video. So I'm going to turn the camera off. I'm going to get this out of the stock, and I'll come back. Okay, so in a recent video, you saw that I had my little Savage 93R 17 17 HMR rifle out to the range. I was just trying to test to see if the federal ammunition was reliable, if it worked great. It seemed to be great. So in an upcoming video, I'm going to be taking this out and doing some accuracy testing. But currently it has the Sweet 17 2-7 by 32 millimeter scope on here, and sometimes it's a little hard to find the eye box. It's not as much magnification, and I had it on 7 power, and even at 50 yards it was really tough to see where my hits were. Of course, you know, we're talking a .177 diameter bullet hole, smaller than a 22, so if you want to track that, you really have to have a little bit more magnification. And I'd mentioned in the video that I'd be looking for a 3-9 or a 4-12 Sweet 17 scope. I really love the Sweet 17. The whole setup here, you've got your adjustable objective for parallax, and you know, I had it sit down here at 50 yards. Even though the turret only goes down to 100, I knew I'd be shooting just a little bit high, and that's fine with me. I can crank it down, kind of guess where 50 yards would be, but I just leave it at 100 yards. If I need to hit the exact bullseye, anything closer to than 100 yards, I just aim slightly low. This only got a duplex reticle. It's not an MOA type bullet drop compensating reticle, because you've already got your turrets, which compensate your crosshairs for your distances. And you want to always remember your parallax also. So last weekend, my wife was out at the Cabela's, and they had this Sweet 17 BSA 3-9 by 40 adjustable objective rifle scope. And you can see right here, it's just the standard BSA duplex reticle. Now, I'm going to be putting this on today. It comes with rings and mounts. This I had to get these. For some reason, the mounts didn't work that came with the scope, so you can see they're slightly shiny versus the matte color here. And one of the other things I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be taking the whole action out of the stock, clean thoroughly underneath here, because you get dirt and dust in here. And this hadn't been out of the safe in 3 years, and I don't even think when I put it away, in fact, I know for a fact this has never been out of the stock, so that's something I'm going to do today. Let's make sure it's clear. Magazine out. And this is only a 5-round magazine. Savage does sell a 10-round magazine, but they're like $30 or something like that. They're pretty steep. And you see this one's been well used by the black marks here, and I'll clean that up later. I got to clean the rifle too, so I'm going to do all that. And we're going to clear it, make sure that we have nothing. I'll look down in there. Yeah, I can see the chamber. That's a nice thing. This is a real flat chamber right here. It doesn't lead back up into the action, so it's easy to check. And I'm also going to take a look at the trigger, see if maybe there's something I can do to lighten this up. It's not a horrible trigger. It's actually a pretty decent trigger. It's got a really crisp break on it. So I got my Wheeler fish scale out here, and I'm trying to keep this in camera, but it should be about 4 to 4.5. Okay, that one broke at this, so slightly over 4 pounds. It's been breaking right around 4 1/4 to 4.5. So I'm going to lubricate that if nothing else, just to make sure it's protected and smooth. Okay, so yeah, right around 4 1/4. But if there's any way I can bring this down to like 3 pounds, 2.5 pounds, hey, that'd be even better, right? Everybody knows that a lighter trigger breaks better, and you know, it just performs a lot better. So to take this out, pull the bolt back, pull the trigger, and the bolt comes right out. Just still a little bit of really light oil on here. I try to, when I put them in the safe, I always try and keep a little bit of oil on them, just so that I don't get any safe rust, even though I've got golden rods in my safe and everything. It's a habit from when I lived in Iowa in a high humidity climate. Um, yeah, I just don't want to see a rifle that's, to me, it's just one of my favorite rifles to shoot. It really is accurate. You know, you've got to remember, I was leaning over on a plastic rest, and yeah, it's not the most stable thing. Next time I take this out for some accuracy testing with the new scope, 3 to 9 by 40, then I will have my bench out there, and I'll have my better rest and sandbags and things like that. So, you know, we can get some good accuracy testing then. This I don't think that the scope will fit with these rings. I'm going to try it. I'm going to loosen up the top rings, pull the scope off, and just set this 40 millimeter in there, and see if I can get it in there without any interference with the barrel. Since it's adjustable objective AO, then I don't want there to be any clearance there. In fact, where it's at right now, yeah, it's got a little bit of clearance. Some might say it's a little too high, but it works, even though it's still a little difficult to see the eye box. So anyway, I'm going to do all this off camera. I'm going to come back and kind of bring you up to date as I'm going along through this. So I don't want this to be a 2-hour tutorial. You all know how to mount scopes, or if you don't, there's 1,000 videos out there. I know I've done several videos on mounting scopes correctly, and they all work. So I'm going to pause here, and I'm going to get all this going, and we'll see what we get. Okay, so I took out my action screws. In fact, this front one here was really loose. This one here was torqued to maybe 2 foot-pounds. They were pathetically light. Anyway, I take the stock off. I'm going to do something with this stock too. I've got a series coming up. I'm going to take these plastic stocks and I'm going to make them better, but that's coming up later. Anyway, how to build a chassis system with just a stock. So let me make sure this is in frame. I'm going to zoom in here. I'm going to show you. Let's see if I can. It's kind of hard to do here. Sorry for all the movement. Okay, so as you can see, let me get my pointer out, because, you know, people don't want to see my fingers. Okay, so right here is the adjustment for your trigger pull. Like I said, this is about 4 1/4 pounds. It's not bad. And actually, for never being out of the chassis, I was really surprised. It's got a little bit of schmutz right here, but it's not filthy, and it's not rusty or anything. So I'm pretty happy with this. I'm going to play around with this screw. All you need just a small wrench to loosen this nut, and then just adjust this screw, and then I'll see what my trigger pull, if it alters it any, and make sure it's still safe. And when I put the safety on, then you know, it won't pull. I'll take the safety off and do a drop test, and see if it, you know, once I find a trigger pull weight that works, then I'll do all that and make sure that we're safe. And I'll get back to you here on this. Now, I haven't changed out the scope yet. I'm going to do this before the scope. I just figured one step at a time. And then I'll clean all this up. Okay, so at a certain point, you can see the nut was up here, and I backed this out quite a bit. And where I'm at right now, and also this is getting pretty loose. Now, that's why you got a set nut there. But anyway, So this right now being backed out all that way. Hold on, let me reset this before I do this. I was just testing this before I turned on the camera. I am just slightly under 4 pounds. So at a certain point, you just got to say, hey, enough's enough. And I think I'll just leave it at about 4 pounds. So I'm going to screw that about halfway back in. Let's see where I'm at. It's probably a lot to do with how the sear is arranged and the springs that are internal and everything. You know, you get slight adjustment. I've maybe gained a little over a quarter of a pound. So right now, with it screwed back down, I am dead on. Well, actually, it's probably 3 pounds 15 ounces. So you know, I mean, it's so close now that I'm just going to tighten this back down. I'll just have to say it's a 4 pound trigger, and without internal changes, then I'm just going to leave it there. And like I say, it's really to pull that trigger. It breaks. Just I mean, you see, there's no creep there, and then okay, little bit of creep right there, but you know, I mean, it's not a horrible trigger, and for a rim fire, I call that a good. So anyway, I'm going to tighten that back down, and then I'll just clean all this up. But yeah, I'm not going to be able to get this under 4 pounds. I've done the adjustments and stuff, and I mean, I had that screw out so far, you know, that it was just flopping, and that's about as light as I was going to go, is maybe 3 and 3/4 pounds. But then you also have the risk of it being not able to engage the sear enough to where if you drop it, it'll go off, even with the safety on. So I'm not going to run the risk of having an unsafe firearm, because everybody knows that I'm a klutz and I fall down and drop things and whatever. So just for safety's sake, I'm going to leave it right there. 3 pounds 15 ounces, 4 pounds, call it 4 pounds just for the sake of argument. So hey, I did try. Okay, so I was going to set this 3 to 9 scope in here, and as you can see, my front edge, it's belled much more here. So I'm going to have to move these mounts in narrower to clear. And believe it or not, I've got clearance under here. But as I was doing this, I noticed that my rear mount, I don't know if you can see how is loose. So I'm going to have to take these bottom rings off anyway. And actually, these new ones, they some of the screws are out. Anyway, they're four bolt mains or whatever, or 4 screw mains, and these are pretty over engineered. Two to hold the rings on, and yeah, it's pretty over engineered. And then this the rear one has a recoil lug, and I'll have to see if that'll match up with anything on the base. But yeah, like I say, I'm just showing you. But look at that, how loose that is. Wow, that's incredible. I don't know how that came loose, but I'll be taking that out, cleaning it up. Blue Loctite, which, by the way, when I mounted the action back into the stock, I put a drop of blue Loctite on that lock nut for the trigger, and a couple of drops on the mounting screws, just so they don't come loose again. And yeah, I'll definitely be doing that on here. But you know, it's probably a good thing I took this off. Lord only knows if that was causing some problems when I was shooting it. You know, it was kind of weird. I'd have just weird flyers, and I just didn't know what it was. Well, I guess now I know. All right. Okay, so I cleaned this off. This had oil underneath, and the screws weren't even tight. It was pretty bad. And then this front one, it was relatively tight, but it wasn't really chipper, and it had some oil underneath it. So one of the things that I always have around is denatured alcohol and Q-tips. Denatured alcohol probably works better on oils and grease than rubbing alcohol. rubbing alcohol tends to leave a film behind. Denatured alcohol will clean and it won't leave a residue behind. So I've cleaned that up pretty good, cleaning underneath the bases. When you're doing this kind of stuff, you really need to have pretty clean parts. Your blue Loctite, it's not going to like any kind of grease on oil. And these little screws, boy, I'll tell you what, they're just tiny. And I don't know where the oil came from that was underneath both. It almost looked like a cutting oil, like when it was manufactured and machined. So I'm wondering, because I've never had these bases off. The rings, like I said, yes, I changed those. And they had blue Loctite on them, but they still weren't as tight as what I'd like. So let me, you want to make sure you get all that out. So, okay, so little drop of blue Loctite in these holes, and then I put the bases on. Okay, it's a little excessive. And then I'm doing all this. I've got cleaning rags. I don't want to use that one. That one has denatured alcohol on there, and just loosen all that up. So clean all that up. There's still a little bit of Loctite inside of there. And then sometimes I'll put just a little drop of Loctite on my bases, but this one here, it still looks like it's got a little bit of schmutz on it. I'm just going to clean that up, make sure that I have everything off of there. Like I said, you can't get these too clean. So, oh yeah, that looks a lot better. So I'm just going to put a drop of Loctite here on the bottom of the base. Just, I don't know. Is it going to hurt? Going to help? Who knows? It's not going to hurt, but I don't know if it'll help or not. Anyway, so I'm going to get these on. I got to stand over the top of it. I'll be in front of the camera, and I'll get this done here in a minute. Okay, so now I know why the other scope had these shiny rings. I'm not a really big fan of these type, but I think that might have been all I could get at the time. These rings that came with the scope, they'd work good for regular dovetail that are on most rimfires, but these have weaver bases, and you're not going to get those wide enough to or even deep enough to get down over the lip of the weaver bases. So these are good dovetail scope. I guess I can put them on. Yeah, I've got a 1022 project coming up. Maybe I'll see if these will fit on the bases that are going on the 1022. I might have to get new rings too. But anyway, so the new scope will get those old rings. So I got to get those all cleaned up. Okay, just updating you as I go. It looks like this is on hold. As you can see here, I can't get the objective bell into the rings, or into the rings. I went through several different types of rings that I had sitting around. No bueno. I had one set of rings that had the same type of base on it, and I thought, oh good, maybe, or well, I had the screws on it, and then these, they've got the thumb screws, same as what these have got, and we've already determined these can't. What the problem is, I'll show you here. Let me stop this. Okay, so the problem is this recoil lug type arrangement here, the through bolt on it, and the base is that goes right into here, and there's no way to move this forward and back. The other ones, I could have moved them forward and back, but I've got the wrong type of bases. So either I've got to get some new bases. I don't even know if I can find some for the Savage 93. Or I've got to get some other rings that'll fit on a weaver base. So I don't know. And then as I got thinking about it, I thought, oh, I bought some bases for a couple other rifles, and I was going to mount those. And Yeah, that's I can't even find those, so I don't know. I think I've lost my mind. So I'm gonna have to wrap this one up until I can do this part two. I'm gonna have to order some rings and or see if I can find some bases. But that's about it for this one. Sorry, guys.